bit late, 6:35 p.m., 18:35 if you prefer. Central Time, USA, Canada, Mexico. Well, I did say I would be late today. Said I was doing a mediation. Well, mediation went as well as could be expected. We finished it. We signed a mediated settlement agreement, so that's got to be good, right? It's always got to be good. Let me just move this thing here. So I hope you remembered today was Earth Day. There's been plenty of information about it all over the place, in the emails and the television, all around. Today, we move on to verify and clarify. Verify and clarify. Oh, by the way, I got a haircut. It's not very obvious, is it? But I did get a haircut. I got a little bit trimmed at the back here. So, well, there we are then. Verify and clarify. What does that mean? My therapist told me the way to achieve true inner peace is to finish what I start. So far today, I have finished 2 bags of chips and a chocolate cake. I feel better already. And that was Dave Berry. I'm not actually quite sure which Dave Berry it is. There's Dave Berry. He was a rock musician back in the 1960s and 70s and so on. And then there's Dave Berry, who's a Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist who writes satirical essays and books that approach serious subjects. So take your pick. But one Dave Berry, or both Dave Berrys, had a sense of humor. And sometimes I think in these kind of columns, we get way too serious, myself included. Therefore, it's good when somebody puts a bit of lightheartedness into this. It's kind of cool. My therapist told me the way to achieve true inner peace is to finish what I start. So far today, I've finished 2 bags of chips and a chocolate cake. I feel better already. Well, great way to move things along. Ernest Holmes, of course, more serious. Apparently, Ernest Holmes did have a good sense of humor. It doesn't come out in a lot of his works, but apparently he did. When the inner thought is clarified, when it knows the truth, it will reinstate the outer in peace, poise, health, and happiness. I'm going to come back to these. Excuse me. All things are open to interpretation. This is Reverend Christian Sorensen. There are as many ways to understand a moment as there are people to undertake the understanding. This is why clarification is essential. The understanding of your reality through your subjective mind makes you an infinitely unique expression. The world is a compilation of influences from media outlets, amplified to play on your sentiments in order to persuade you to perceive events and people in certain ways, while encouraging you to believe you think these things. Independent thinkers, those who broaden their perspectives with exposure to various viewpoints, are scary to those determined to direct the narrative. Whether it's a bully who wants to get to you through fear, or a clever and artful storyteller who moves you emotionally, remember to verify and clarify. When information overloads us, we can easily forget that not everything we read, hear, and see is true. These 3 questions can help you determine whether what you're seeing, hearing, or reading, or all 3, is true. Number 1, what is the source? Number 2, what is the evidence? And he says, number 3, most importantly, do you want to believe it's true? Your responsibility is to ascertain what is true and to get clear on what's important to you and what's not. Okay. So obviously the statement by Dave Berry, not obviously, most likely the statement by Dave Berry was just a flippant remark and probably not the truth. I don't know whichever one it was, whether it's true or not, that he finished 2 bags of chips and a chocolate cake. But the whole point of this message today, which you probably gather, it doesn't take a lot of interpretation, is to check your facts. You know, there is so much information out there available on the web about everything that you really have to be careful what you read and what you believe. And as Reverend Christian Sorensen says, I don't necessarily follow his order. I think all three things are important. What's the source? I think that's the most important thing. What is the source? Where is it coming from? You know, I get, probably like you, I get emails every day, and it's pretty obvious from some of them that they're really just junk, because of the way they've said it. You've won and prize today. Well, either it's AI generated or it's somebody whose English is not very good. But there is really so much information. And my wife goes on and just, quote, research online, unquote. And one of the great things that I learned about going through ministerial training is that we took a course called Research Methodology. And we were taught, not only in that class, but in actually quite a few of the classes, check your source. In fact, in one of the classes, we're looking into potential questions related to health. We were told to make sure that the information is recent, you know, in the last 10 years or so, and make sure where it's coming from. We were given really good sources to check for information. So I think that's clearly the most important. What's the source? And then, irrespective of who the source is or what the source is, what's the evidence that presented, and was it properly verified? And then, as he says, finally, you know, are you going to accept it as your truth or not? He says, do you want to believe it's true? So I think this is a good point for us to remember in future, because, as I said, the information's coming at us all the time. If you watch the news, you can watch different news channels, which we do sometimes, and you can see the same story has been presented in completely different ways. Why? Because just as he's saying here, there's someone, in this case a news source, trying to get you to accept a certain set of facts with a certain interpretation, and only that interpretation. So in this day and age of misleading information, I think this is a really good reminder to all of us. And Holmes, when he says the inner thought is clarified, when the inner thought is clarified, when it knows the truth, it will reinstate the outer in peace, poise, health, and happiness. So when you've got your mind clear about what's going on, you tend to start relaxing into things and becoming a person much more at ease. I don't really want to belabor this a lot more, not least of which because my voice is still not back up to 100%. I understand more deeply than just what the words say. I understand more deeply than just what the words say. It's a good affirmation. It's actually telling us that the words themselves convey meanings and convey different meanings to all of us. So we each put a different interpretation and an understanding on whatever the words are that come through to us. But when we get good sources of information, it helps us to lead lives that are much more authentic. So that's really all I want to say about today's reading. I know it's a little bit short, but quite honestly, I'm struggling to keep my voice going today. However, Reverend Lisa normally does not have a problem keeping her voice moving and voice going, and she'll be on at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Although she's been she and her husband have been under the weather a bit as well in the last couple of weeks. But she'll be on tomorrow morning reading from a different source, and I encourage you to see what we both have to say. Mine's pretty simple. I read from the daily guides in the Science of Man magazine every day. And Creative Life Spiritual Center's always got something to say. So, for instance, we have a book study going on tonight. We have another one tomorrow night. We have another one Wednesday night. On Fridays and Saturdays, we have Philosophy Friday and Philosophy Saturday. We have our service every Sunday. We have lots of stuff going on. Our whole purpose in life is not to teach you what to believe. It's to teach you how to believe. So many of our people go to different religious services. I know somebody who, she does it mostly online. She attends 3, sometimes 4 different ones. Usually they're kind of related somewhat. I know one lady who has no problem coming to our service and going to a Catholic Mass and participating fully in it. So our purpose is not to take anybody away from whatever belief system they have now. It's simply to help them become a better whatever it is that they are. And just to know that the light of God surrounds us, and the love of God enfolds us, and the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Why? Because everywhere we are, God is, and always will. So until next time, namaste.